Today I'm going to talk about dyspraxia. I was diagnosed with dyspraxia as a child. My mum was concerned about some of the issues that I was having, including the fact that I was extremely clumsy. And unlike my autism and ADHD diagnoses, I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about that diagnosis or doing much research into what it means as a diagnosis and what it means for me. So making this video has given me a great opportunity to rectify that and to learn a little bit more about my neurodivergence. Dyspraxia, also known as developmental coordination disorder or DCD, is a condition which primarily affects movement and coordination. So that means that dyspraxia can affect our fine motor skills, such as using cutlery or writing, as well as our gross motor skills, which we use for things like running, kicking a football or riding a bike. It also affects motor planning, which we need for multi-step motor function tasks such as tying our shoelaces. Additionally, dyspraxia can also impact other areas of functioning. It can affect organising and planning. People with dyspraxia can have trouble organising their thoughts, body and equipment, as well as having difficulty with attention, memory and time management, sensory processing difficulties and a poor sense of direction. Some people with dyspraxia also experience difficulties in the areas of speech and language. This is known as verbal dyspraxia, which refers to a severe difficulty coordinating the movements required to produce clear speech. Verbal dyspraxia can occur alongside or independently of general motor dyspraxia. The cause of dyspraxia is unknown, but experts theorise that in the brain, the nerve cells which control muscles, motor neurons if you want to get fancy, are not developing correctly. If motor neurons cannot form proper connections, the brain takes longer to process data, affecting the person's ability to perform movements in a smooth, coordinated way. Let's look at the diagnostic criteria for DCD in the DSM-5. The diagnostic criteria is divided into 4 parts, A, B, C and D. Part A, the acquisition and execution of coordinated motor skills, is substantially below that expected, given the individual's age and the opportunity for skill learning and use. Difficulties are manifested as clumsiness, e.g. dropping or bumping into objects, as well as slowness or inaccuracy or performance of motor skills. For example, handwriting, catching an object, riding a bike or participating in sports. The motor deficit described in Part A persistently and significantly impacts activities and daily living appropriate to age. For example, self-care, academics, leisure and play. Part C, onset of symptoms, is in the early developmental period. And Part D, the motor skills deficits, are not better explained by an intellectual disability or visual impairment and are not attributed to a neurological condition affecting movement. Now I'm going to talk about how to access an assessment for DCD in the UK if you think that might benefit you. If you think your child might have DCD, the people to talk to are your GP, health visitor or school SENCO. They can arrange for you to see a specialist who will perform an assessment. This often involves an assessment called the Motor ABC. This tests gross motor skills and fine motor skills, and their scores will be compared with the average scores from within their age group. From personal experience, since my daughter Wonder Girl went through this process, I'd also recommend mentioning anything you've done to help with the difficulties, such as sending to dance or gymnastic classes, because they might take that into account and adjust for it. For adults, if you think you might have DCD, your first port of call is the GP. Your GP can refer you to a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist for assessment. Having worked with the knowledge that I have dyspraxia for most of my life, I can tell you that my movement and coordination have definitely improved. So I thought it might be helpful to share the things that have benefited me in case it might be helpful for you. As a child, I was so uncoordinated that I was kicked out of my ballet class. My mum was told that ballet wasn't for me. Now, I am the sort of person that if you tell me I can't do something, that basically makes me more determined to do it, which impacts me as internalised ableism and not being able to make peace with my difficulties, but in this case was a good thing. So, several years later, as an older child, I begged to take ballet classes again, and I attended them with a focused and determined attitude. I was never a natural dancer, but with a lot of hard work I made loads of progress and ultimately ended up studying dance at university. After this, I attended circus school where I learnt aerial, acrobatics and juggling skills. Again, these skills never came naturally to me, but with a lot of hard work I did reach a standard where I was able to both perform and teach circus skills for a living. I'm not suggesting that dedicating oneself to a coordination-based skill is the way forward for everyone. But what I am saying is that movement and coordination can be improved with practice, even for those of us with dyspraxia. I made enough progress with all of this work that I am not noticeably clumsy anymore. I am still clumsy, but because it tends to happen when I'm at home not thinking about what I'm doing, that does mean that there has been a massive improvement because of the hard work that I put in. My other suggestion for overcoming the movement and coordination aspects of dyspraxia are that if you can't do things the standard way, find a way of doing them that works for you. So, for example, I still can't tie my shoelaces the way that people are generally taught, so I found a little cheat way for me to be able to do it. When it comes to the executive functioning challenges associated with dyspraxia, by which I mean organising and planning, attention, memory, time management, and sensory processing difficulties, these are all symptoms of other neurodivergent conditions such as autism and ADHD. This is good because in my experience there are a lot more resources and self-help guides for people with these conditions. Dyspraxia, for some reason, seems to be less well known and less talked about. So if you are experiencing difficulties in these areas, I'd suggest checking out my videos on autism and ADHD for tips, as well as other resources online for people with executive functioning difficulties and sensory processing difficulties. I'll link to any of my videos that feel relevant and other resources in the description box below. Finally, I wanted to say that, like most other neurodivergent conditions, people with dyspraxia often have some unique strengths too. We tend to be hard-working, determined and highly motivated, with good strategic thinking and problem-solving skills. So although being dyspraxic can be a challenge, it also makes us unique thinkers who persevere. I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to support me further, there are a number of ways you could financially contribute to the channel, including joining my members club or tipping me via my Ko-Fi jar. For more details, click the join button at the top of this channel or follow the link in the description box to my Ko-Fi profile. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.